Welcome back to Bible Shorts, episode 84, A Young Boy Called Josiah. Now, in our last episode, we learned that after King Hezekiah dies, a son and then a grandson succeed him as king. Neither of them are considered good kings. And then Hezekiah's great-grandson Josiah is anointed king. Now, Josiah was only a child, only 8 years old. That means that other people are actually holding the kingdom together. Then about the time he was 16, in the 8th year of his reign, Josiah began to seek the God of his ancestor David. He did what was right in the sight of the Lord and walked in all the way of David. And also around that very same time, God was speaking to a young man called Jeremiah, calling him to be his prophet. And we'll learn more about Jeremiah next week. Then one day, when Josiah was around 25 or 26, he called Shaphan, his secretary, and said, "Go up to the temple to the high priest Hilkiah. Have him gather together the money that is brought into the house of the Lord from the people, and give it to the men in charge of the workers who are at the house of the Lord repairing it." So then, the workers who repaired and restored the temple were paid. Money was also given to carpenters and builders to purchase dressed stone and timber for joists and beams for the buildings that the kings of Judah had allowed to fall into ruin. Now, during the repairs, they found an old scroll, a book of the law of the Lord that had been given through Moses. The high priest Hilkiah went to Shaphan, the king's secretary, and said, "We have found the book of the law in the house of the Lord." And after Hilkiah gave the book to Shaphan, Shaphan read it. We're not sure what this book was. Scholars guess that it might have been part of what is now the book of Deuteronomy. Then Shaphan the secretary came to the king and reported, "Your servants have delivered the money from the temple into the hand of the workers who have oversight of the repairs for the house of the Lord." Then he added, "The priest Hilkiah has also given me a book that was found in the temple." Shaphan then read it aloud to the king, and when the king heard the words of the book of the law, he tore his clothes. Then the king commanded the high priest Hilkiah, Shaphan the secretary, and 2 of his other servants to go, inquire of the Lord for me, for the people and for all Judah, concerning the words of this book that has been found. For great is the wrath of the Lord that is kindled against us, because our ancestor did not obey the words of this book, to do according to all that is written concerning us. So the priest Hilkiah, Shaphan, and 2 servants went to the prophetess Huldah, the wife of the keeper of the king's wardrobe. She declared to them, "Tell the man who sent you to me, 'Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, I will indeed bring disaster on this place and on its inhabitants, all the words of the book that the king of Judah has read.'" But then Huldah said, "Also tell the king of Judah who sent you, 'Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, because your heart was penitent, because you have torn your clothes and wept before me after hearing the words in the book of the law. I have heard you, says the Lord. Therefore your eyes shall not see all the disaster that I will bring on this place." And they took the message back to King Josiah. And then Josiah directed that all the elders of Judah and Jerusalem should be gathered into the city. The king went up to the house of the Lord, and with him went all the people of Judah, all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, the priests, the prophets, and all the people, both small and great. He read in their hearing all the words of the book of the law that had been found in the house of the Lord, the temple. The king stood by the pillar and made a covenant before the Lord to follow the Lord, keeping his commandments, his decrees, and his statutes with all his heart and with all his soul, to perform the words of this covenant that were written in this book. And all the people joined in this covenant. Then Josiah ordered Hilkiah and the priests to remove all the idols and items in the temple that had been used to worship false gods. All the pagan altars and sacred stones in the land were destroyed. Figures of gods were pulled down and ground to dust. Even the altar at Bethel that King Jeroboam had made many years ago before was destroyed. Then King Josiah ordered everyone to celebrate the Passover as it was written in God's laws. It was a great occasion. And it sounds just like Hezekiah, doesn't it? But somehow the people's promise to keep the covenant with God that they had made after Josiah had read the book of the law is, you guessed it, not going to last. Finally, in the 31st year of King Josiah's reign, Necho, the Egyptian pharaoh, gathered an army to march north. He was going to join up with the Assyrian army to fight the Babylonians. King Josiah did not want the Assyrians to become more powerful, and so he decided to intercept the Egyptians at Megiddo. But in the battle, the Egyptian archers shot King Josiah, and the king said to his servants, "Take me away, for I am badly wounded." So his servants brought Josiah back to Jerusalem, where he was buried in the tombs of his fathers. And all the people wept and mourned their king. And next week, we're going to go back to earlier in Josiah's reign to learn what happened when God spoke to a young man named Jeremiah. Look for Bible Shorts, episode 85. And Jeremiah said to the Lord, "I am only a boy."